Mel Brooks spent $2.8 million making Young Frankenstein in 1974, but one scene almost destroyed the entire movie. Marty Feldman bit Madeline Kahn's mink wrap during filming, and what happened next forced them to shoot the same scene 15 times. The cast couldn't stop laughing. The fur got everywhere, and the damage was so expensive, Brooks made a decision that shocked everyone. He cut the whole thing. For 40 years, that footage stayed locked away. When it finally surfaced in 2014, people realized this wasn't just a blooper. It was the moment that almost turned a classic into complete chaos. Gene Wilder did not wake up one day and decide to write a spoof. It started in the winter of 1973 when he was staying in West Hampton, New York, and he kept watching the old Frankenstein movies at 2 p.m. every day. The feeling stayed in him after the credits, so he grabbed a yellow legal pad and began writing the first pages, building this idea of Victor Frankenstein's nervous great-grandson going back to Transylvania, not to laugh at the classics, but to honor them. That choice shaped everything. He wanted the movie to feel like those early Universal horror films, not like a joke that points and giggles. Later, he said the first scenes he wrote, especially the train station meeting between Dr. Frankenstein and Igor, stayed almost unchanged, like the story had landed in his lap and he just had to catch it. Then real life stepped in, because love for an idea is one thing, and turning it into a film is another. While Wilder was on the set of Blazing Saddles in 1974, he went to Mel Brooks with the dream and made it weirdly official in the most Wilder way possible. He handed Brooks $57,000 in cash as a symbolic down payment to co-write the screenplay and direct. Brooks asked if Wilder had any money, and Wilder simply pulled out his wallet and gave him the $57 right there. Brooks later treated it like the moment the partnership truly began. After that, the nights became routine. They would sit at Wilder's Hotel Bel Air bungalow, working slowly over Earl Grey tea and digestive biscuits, pushing scenes back and forth until the jokes felt sharp, but the world still felt real. That same kind of lucky timing also helped the cast come together. And it was not just, we like these people. It was a chain of small things snapping into place. Wilder's agent, Mike Medavoy, represented Marty Feldman and Peter Boyle at the same time. And when Wilder started developing the script, Medavoy called Brooks and asked if he had a project for all three actors. Wilder heard that and instantly saw faces in his head. Feldman was perfect for Igor, and Boyle could be both scary and soft at the same time, which mattered because the monster needed menace and hurt living in the same body. The details got just as strange as the jokes. Boyle's makeup took 5 hours a day. Feldman's hump was basically a maternity cushion stuffed into his costume. Even the wrong-looking pieces became the right ones, and the movie started to feel like it was choosing its own people. Still, the biggest fight was not about a punchline. It was about respect. Brooks and Wilder wanted this to look and move like the 1930s horror films, especially James Whale's 1931 Frankenstein, and that meant black and white. Studios did not love that idea. Columbia Pictures worried about the budget and wanted color, but Brooks refused to bend. When Columbia backed out, Alan Ladd Jr. at 20th Century Fox stepped in and agreed to the black and white look and the $2.4 million budget. From there, they went all in on the tribute. Production designer Dale Hennessy worked to match the old style, and he even helped source original lab equipment from Kenneth Strickfaden, the effects designer tied to the 1931 film. The goal was simple: make it feel like you are inside that world, and then let the laughs hit you while you are already standing in the shadows. And as the pieces locked in, the people inside those pieces started turning into legends. Feldman was coming to Hollywood for the first time, and he was very nervous during auditions, but Wilder had him in mind from the start. Wilder later called him the heart and soul of the production because his odd energy made Igor feel alive. The famous "walk this way" moment with the limp and the cane came from improvisation and became a signature gag. To sell the look, his knees were padded with tissues to make them knobby, and the crew leaned into his bulging eyes, which came from a thyroid condition because it made him even more unforgettable. Wilder even described their rhythm like a classic comedy pair, saying Feldman played it like he was Stan Laurel and Wilder was Oliver Hardy. Feldman leaned into it, and that nervousness faded. By the end, the role defined him, even earning him a Saturn Award. Terry Garr's story had the same stubborn shape, just in a different direction. She first auditioned for Elizabeth, the fiancée, and Brooks told her Madeline Kahn was his first choice. Garr could have walked away right there, but Wilder pushed her to come back the next day and read for Inga instead. She was working on the Sonny and Cher comedy hour then, and she treated the second chance like a mission. She worked with a German wig stylist, shaped the accent, and even exaggerated her figure with socks in her bra. The audition hit so hard that Brooks cast her on the spot. Then she delivered lines like, "Would you like to have a role in Sie Hey?" with such confidence that people still quote it like it is part of real life. Even the surprises had roots. Gene Hackman was known for heavy dramatic work, but he was friends with Wilder and they played tennis together, so Hackman asked for a small role. There was one part left, the blind hermit, and they gave it to him even though it sounded like a wild risk. The result became one of the funniest scenes in the film, partly because Hackman played it straight and let the chaos happen around him. He wore a huge beard, almost disappeared into it, and the role ended up uncredited, but unforgettable. Meanwhile, Boyle paid for his role with patience and skin. The makeup by William Tuttle was brutal, up to 5 hours a day, and the heat under studio lights made it worse. His platform boots added 6 inches. He still brought a childlike softness that made the monster feel both frightening and lonely. The process was so intense that his skin could blister, yet he stayed committed because the emotional truth was the point, not comfort. Cloris Leachman pushed the same idea from the other side of the house, making Frau Blücher feel like a storm in human form. She played her dead serious, which made the comedy sharper. Her accent was locked in from the start and was inspired by Mel Brooks' own mother, who was German and on set. William Tuttle added a huge mole to age her up and make her more intimidating. The name Blücher became a running gag with horses whinnying, and Leachman's control made that simple joke feel like a curse. Her work was so strong she got a Golden Globe nomination, and she proved she could be scary, funny, and strange without ever winking at the audience. And that part matters because Wilder and Brooks fought to protect the tone. Their writing sessions were intense. They argued for hours, sometimes shouting and pacing over small changes. And Brooks later said they almost got into a fist fight. Wilder even remembered one blow-up that ended with Brooks storming out, then calling back just 10 minutes later, screaming, "Who was that madman in your house? You should never let crazy people into your house." It sounds insane, but it had a purpose. They were squeezing every scene until it worked. That is also why the "Putting on the Ritz" number almost did not exist. Wilder wanted Dr. Frankenstein to bring the monster to high society with a top hat and tails routine. Brooks read it and exploded. "You tap dance to Irving Berlin? In top hat and tails with the monster? Are you crazy?" Wilder fought for 20 minutes, red-faced, refusing to drop it. Brooks finally agreed to shoot it as a test, saying, "If one person says it's silly or stupid, It's out. The scene crushed the test. It stayed. Later, Brooks admitted, "I have never been so wrong in my life." The number premiered on December 15, 1974, and it became one of the moments people remember first, because it is ridiculous, but it still belongs to that world. Wilder also drew a line that surprised Brooks. He did not want Brooks acting in the film because he feared Brooks would break the fourth wall and ruin the balance. Brooks remembered Wilder saying, "I don't want to break the fourth wall." Brooks pushed back. "Wait a minute, am I so bad?" Wilder did not insult him. He just explained the worry. "You're not bad, but you're always breaking the fourth wall. I'm afraid you'll be in a suit of armor, flip up the visor and say, 'Hiya, folks!'" So Brooks stayed off-screen, even though he still found a way in with voice work as Victor Frankenstein and a werewolf. All of this would have fallen apart if the look did not match the promise. Brooks insisted on black and white in 1974, even when people feared audiences would reject it, because color films ruled the era. Even the cinematographer, Gerald Hirschfeld, resisted at first, but Brooks wanted the exact mood of the old Universal films. Then they pushed the details further. They used 1930s-style opening credits, iris outs, wipes, and fades to black, like a time machine built into the edit. Composer John Morris shaped the score to feel period correct, moving between spooky horror chords and sweet melodies that sounded like they belonged to that era. And for the lab, they chased the real thing. Kenneth Strickfaden had kept the old electrical props in his Santa Monica garage for over 40 years, and when they saw it, they were shocked it still worked. He offered to rent it for $1,000, but Brooks insisted on paying $2,500 out of respect. The centerpiece was Strickfaden's variable traveling arc, throwing sparks that looked like the past was still alive. During the filming of Young Frankenstein in late 1973, things were already loose and playful on set, but one moment pushed everyone past the edge. In the middle of Elizabeth's dramatic entrance into the castle, Marty Feldman decided to do something no one expected. While playing Igor, he suddenly leaned in and bit the tail of Madeline Kahn's mink fur wrap. It was not planned. It was not discussed. It just happened. White mink hairs exploded into the air, and some stuck straight into Feldman's mouth. He tried to keep going, but had to stop, again and again, spitting fur out like chewing gum. Every time he bit it, Madeline Kahn screamed. Gene Wilder panicked, and the entire cast collapsed into laughter. Nobody could breathe. Nobody could focus. What should have been a quick scene turned into pure chaos, and the crew ended up shooting it nearly 15 times, more than any other moment in the film. Eventually, Mel Brooks had to stop filming altogether and give everyone time to recover, because the laughter simply would not die down. Yet even with all that joy, the scene never made it into the final movie. When Mel Brooks tested the film, audiences laughed too early and too loudly. The reaction broke the rhythm of the parody and pulled attention away from what was meant to come later, especially the famous putting on the Ritz sequence. Brooks worried that one wild gag would flatten the buildup of everything else, so he cut the full mink bite and kept only a quick shot of Feldman's twisted grin. The madness was still there, just quieter. For years, the full footage stayed hidden, popping up only in rare behind-the-scenes reels and deleted scene collections. Gene Wilder later admitted that this single bit of improvisation caused more delays than any other part of the shoot, which said a lot about how fragile even a comedy set can be. Part of what made the moment so shocking was that it was not harmless. Madeline Kahn's mink wrap cost $50 in 1973, which would be about $325 today. Feldman actually damaged it, sending expensive hairs flying across the set, Kahn joked about it afterward, reminding him those were real minks, but repairs still had to be made, and nerves still had to settle. It showed how one impulsive choice could ripple through an entire production, forcing retakes, costume fixes, and a director's tough decision to protect the movie's flow. That same tension between control and instinct showed up again with Gene Wilder himself. When he arrived on set playing Dr. Frankenstein, he had a thin old Hollywood mustache that was never in the script. Mel Brooks did not like it at first. It clashed with the image he had in his head. But Wilder believed in it so strongly that he filmed key scenes twice, once with the mustache and once without it. When Brooks reviewed the footage, he changed his mind. He later wrote that Gene had never looked more handsome in the role. What started as a quiet disagreement turned into one of the character's defining features, a small detail that added charm and a touch of classic elegance to the performance. Improvisation kept shaping the film in unexpected ways. When Gene Hackman joined the cast as the blind hermit, the role was meant to be brief and simple. Still, Hackman asked if he could try a few ideas. During the scene, he suddenly delivered the line about making espresso, a completely modern joke that made no sense in the film's time period. The set exploded with laughter. Brooks loved it instantly and kept it in. The scene cuts to black right after, almost as if the film itself cannot handle the joke. That single line became one of the most remembered moments, proving that sometimes the funniest thing is the one that should not belong at all. While some actors played freely, others suffered quietly. Peter Boyle spent hours each day buried under layers of prosthetics to become the monster. The makeup process took about 4 hours, trapping heat and glue against his skin under harsh studio lights. By the end of shooting days, his face often felt like it was overheating. Sometimes it felt like the makeup itself was melting. Special effects teams even created fiberglass casts for the most dangerous scenes to protect him. It was exhausting and painful, but Boyle pushed through, and the result was a monster that felt both terrifying and oddly human. And then there was Marty Feldman again, adding chaos in smaller ways. Igor's wandering hump was never written into the script. Feldman simply started moving it from side to side between scenes. One moment, it was on the left. The next time, it was on the right. The crew noticed. They laughed. Brooks and Wilder loved it and leaned into the joke. That shifting hump became a quiet visual punchline that rewarded attentive viewers and summed up the spirit of the whole production. Mel Brooks had big ideas for Young Frankenstein, and some of them were so wild they could have changed the whole movie in 1 second. One day, he reportedly tossed out a gag that sounded funny on paper, but dangerous in the real scene. He suggested that Frankenstein's monster should speak his first words as a Cary Grant impression. It was the kind of joke that would hit hard and fast, and then swallow the mood right after. Gene Wilder heard it and stayed calm. He was co-writer, he was the lead, and he was also protecting the tone with his life. So he did something quiet and clever. He pretended to write the idea down, as if he loved it, but inside he hoped Brooks would forget it. And somehow, Brooks did forget it. That tiny moment says a lot. Brooks loved big comedy that pushed the edge. Wilder wanted the jokes to sit inside the story without breaking the spell. He did not want the monster to become a cartoon the second he opened his mouth. He wanted the monster to feel human first. That choice mattered, because it helped make room for moments where the monster's speech lands as funny and strangely touching at the same time, including the famous line, "Saying is, I'm monster." And once you realize that, you start seeing the whole set as a place where balance was always under attack. It was a comedy, yes, but it was also a careful parody of classic horror, and even a small shift could tip it into pure silliness. Brooks would push. Wilder would pull it back. Then the film would land right in that sweet spot again. Still, even when the tone stayed controlled, the set itself did not always behave. One of the most talked about moments happened during the mink-biting scene with Marty Feldman and Madeline Kahn. On camera, it was already funny. Behind the scenes, it turned into real chaos. Feldman kept biting the mink wrap, and each time he did it, fur got in his mouth. Then the laughter started. Not polite laughter, the kind that wrecks a take, the kind that makes your face hurt. They reportedly had to shoot it again and again, up to 15 times, because the actors could not stop cracking up. The problem was, every extra take came with a cost. Those were expensive period costumes, and the mink wrap itself was not just a prop, it was money. The wrap was said to be $50, and it did not handle repeated biting well. The more it happened, the more it damaged the wardrobe, and the more the production had to scramble. Time went. Energy dropped. The laughter spilled into other moments. The crew had to clean up the mess and reset the scene again and again. In the end, that blooper became legendary, but it was also too much to keep inside the final film. It was the kind of moment that could pull the audience out of the movie. Then there was another twist that hit the production from a totally different angle: casting. Madeline Kahn was originally cast as Inga, the sweet lab assistant. Then the plan changed at the last minute, and she was moved into the role of Elizabeth instead. Suddenly, everything had to shift. Inga had to be recast fast, and the part went to Terry Garr. Meanwhile, Kahn had to adjust, and the production had to adjust with her. That meant script tweaks. That meant new wardrobe fittings. That meant pressure, and it all happened close to filming days when there was not much time to breathe. But when Kahn stepped into Elizabeth, something clicked. Her performance had that elegant, dramatic style that could turn into comedy in a single beat. That switch shaped key moments, including the famous "Oh, Sweet Mystery of Life" sequence. It was a gamble, and it paid off, because Kahn's Elizabeth became one of those characters people remember for decades. And right in the center of all of it was Gene Wilder himself, trying to reshape his screen energy into something new. People already knew him as Willy Wonka, playful and dreamy, floating through scenes with a strange sparkle. But Dr. Frankenstein needed a different engine. He had to feel serious enough to belong in an old monster movie and nervous enough to make the comedy work. Brooks, at least at first, leaned toward a bigger, broader version of the scientist. Wilder fought for something more controlled. Not flat, not quiet, just more real. He built the character with small choices, gestures, and a careful voice that could slide from pride to panic without warning. Brooks later admitted that Wilder's approach became the heart of the film, because it made the story feel grounded even while the jokes got absurd. And because the cast was so strong, the danger became obvious. If they let the set turn into non-stop laughing, the film could start feeling messy. That is why so many bloopers and unscripted moments were kept out of the final cut. Some scenes were so chaotic that they threatened the illusion completely. There was even a moment where the cast was close to losing it, and Cloris Leachman reportedly said from backstage, "I'm going to pee." It sounds funny, and it was funny, but it also shows how easily the movie could have turned into raw, behind-the-scenes madness instead of a polished parody. So Brooks and Wilder made a hard call. They trimmed the wildest moments. They kept the pace tight. They left only small hints of the cast's insanity. Enough to feel the energy, but not enough to break the movie. Then came the biggest gamble of all, the one that could have buried the film before anyone ever laughed. Young Frankenstein premiered on December 15, 1974. Before that, Brooks had convinced 20th Century Fox to invest about $2.8 million, with some sources putting it at $2.78 million. That was a big number for a comedy, and an even bigger risk because the film was shot in black and white. At the time, color ruled the screen, and plenty of people in the industry doubted audiences would show up for a monochrome spoof in the mid-1970s. Columbia Pictures reportedly hesitated on both the budget and the black and white choice, and the project ended up at Fox, where Alan Ladd Jr. signed off. When the movie finally landed, the doubt did not last long. Against that $2.8 million budget, the film exploded. It grossed $86.2 million in the United States and $86.4 million worldwide. That kind of return was not normal. It turned a risky style choice into a financial win that people still talk about. Some estimates even put the return at nearly 31 times its budget. And the success was not just ticket sales. It became a cultural moment, the kind people quote, the kind people rewatch, the kind that keeps finding new fans. Critics came along too. The film earned a 95% rating on Rotten Tomatoes based on 73 reviews, with an average score of 8.6 out of 10. It also picked up 2 Academy Award nominations, Best Adapted Screenplay for Brooks and Wilder, and Best Sound. Over time, it collected more honors, and its reputation kept growing instead of fading. Then the film crossed into something even bigger than popularity. In 2003, the Library of Congress selected Young Frankenstein for preservation in the National Film Registry. Only 25 films are added each year, and this one made the cut because it had cultural, historical, and aesthetic significance. That decision locked it into a protected place in American film history. It was no longer just a movie people loved. It became a piece of the country's memory that had to be saved. Around the same era, the American Film Institute stamped it with another kind of respect. In 2000, AFI ranked Young Frankenstein at number 13 on its 100 Years 100 Laughs list. Then in 2004, it made AFI's 100 Years 100 Songs list too, because of Puttin' on the Ritz. That is how deep it went. It was not only funny, it was iconic. Even the hidden chaos had a long life. That mink-biting blooper stayed in the shadows for years, treated almost like forbidden footage. Fans heard about it, some people saw it at special events, but it did not fully reach home collections until the 40th anniversary Blu-ray release in 2014. By then, it was not just a blooper. It was proof of the chemistry on set, proof that the cast was having too much fun, and proof that the film's tight final tone took real discipline. And of course, once something becomes that loved, the world tries to remake it in other forms. In 2007, Young Frankenstein was adapted into a Broadway musical, written by Mel Brooks and co-directed with Susan Stroman. The show had real effort behind it, but it carried a heavy problem from day one. The original cast left a shadow that was hard to escape. Gene Wilder's Dr. Frankenstein, Marty Feldman's Igor, Cloris Leachman's Frau Blücher. Those performances were not easy to recreate. The musical ran for about a year and got mixed reviews, but even that proved the point. The story still had power. People still wanted it, even when the ghosts of the original were impossible to ignore. And now, after all that time, there is one more strange twist that keeps the film feeling rare. In many regions, Young Frankenstein is still not easy to find on streaming, and collectors often end up relying on DVD, Blu-ray, or special screenings to watch it. That scarcity adds another layer to its legend. A movie that almost became chaos. A movie that almost went too broad. A movie that could have turned the monster into a quick impression and lost its heart. Instead, it stayed smart, stayed human, and somehow became both a classic comedy and a national treasure.